What is a food that makes you think? How did humans discover this was edible? There's a root vegetable I forgot the name of that is toxic unless you bore the living shit out of it. A woman I was dating years ago discovered some growing in our yard and decided to try it out. She told me about it and got a little snippy with me when I refused to try it after she cooked it. She ate some. Then her mouth went numb, and she started feeling ill. It didn't actually hurt her in any long-term way, which was good. Feeling vindicated is really nice. Milk someone a long time ago was like I'm going to start pulling up and down on these weird, rubbery fingers attached to this cow's undercarriage. And then after doing it for a period of time he was like, oh my god, some sort of white liquid has just blasted out of this cow's undercarriage fingers. What should I do with it? I know, I'll drink it, and everyone else in the village was like, fuck yeah, we'll drink it too. One of the first staple foods is kinda weird, acorns. Acorns were actually farmed very early in human history, but to make them edible you have to soak them and treat them. Sure, you see animals eat them all the time, but animals also eat tree bark and leaves. Somehow people figured out that you could turn the inside of acorns into flour and basically eradicate hunger by simple picking up acorns for a couple of days. Nuts. Have you tried opening so many nuts it could feed you? Like, the ratio is not very good there. Besides, apart from observing other animals, how do you know there's something in it? And like, don't you get bored opening them? To eat so little in comparison to the shell. Also, like, actually, a third of them are half rotten already even though they're inside. You'll get it. It drives me nuts. Anything fermented, like something like hackle, which is a fermented shark dish where the fresh version isn't even safe to eat, and the fermented version is so gross that it's chased with a shot of liquor to kill the taste. Everything in our instincts would have told us not to eat that, but some people still do to this day. I'm guessing it was originally eaten out of absolute desperation. Fugu, sense to show that you can consistently make it in a way that won't kill your customer, not to mention the training required to get the license, which IRC can only be issued by the Japanese government. How many tries were needed to figure out the proper way to make it? And why did they keep trying after the first 2 or 3 tries? Potatoes. Early potatoes were small, hard, and poisonous. Methods of making them not poisonous included soaking them in running water for weeks or, in the high Andes, leaving them out on rocks high in the mountains so they effectively freeze-dried. Alternatively, you could mix them with clay. When eating them, the clay would adsorb some of the toxins. Alligator. Those things are scary. Who decides, yeah, this thing wants to bite me, drown me, and drag me off to its den to eat me while I rot? Looks delicious. In all honesty though, I think most things were tried because humans saw other animals eating them and thought they could be both safe and beneficial. Century eggs. They do not look like something that is edible in any way, shape or form, and the process is decently complicated. I have to wonder how that came about. Also, most French pastries. Some of them are incredibly delicate and you have to wonder who decided to experiment and develop these 20-step recipes. Chocolate. I mean, don't get me wrong, I get why they were playing around with the plant and all. The sheer process of getting to chocolate as a product is so weird and bizarre. HTTPSN. And kinda. Then it comes out as the lovely candy we know and love. The enigmatic durian. A fruit so pungent it could make a skunk blush. It's like someone stumbled upon this spiky orb, dared to take a bite, and thought, yes, let's create a culinary sensation that smells like a blend of rotten onions and gym socks. Truly, the mysteries of gastronomy know no bounds. You're imagining a try, just sacrificing a guy by telling him to eat a whole poisonous plant is funny. Dose makes the poison. Rhubarb leaves are poisonous, but a scrap of one isn't going to kill or even maim a grown adult. You eat a tiny bit, get side effects. Don't eat that. Hockle. I think it was probably starvation that led someone long ago to eat that rotten dead shark. I had been fermenting in beach sand for months. Surely that could be the only reason someone would eat it, because I have heard hockle smells and tastes like piss. kimchi or anything else fermented. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoy kimchi and sauerkraut among other delicious fermented foods. But how did they figure it out? And eggs. Who thought? Those things coming out those birds' asses looks absolutely scrumptious. Almonds. Wild almonds are barely edible. You'd have to be really desperate. And even then you can't eat many before you get cyanide poisoning. They had to be selectively bred for a long time, and a lot of that time was they're still really awful. Honestly. Toast. Grow this grain. Now take part of it and mash it up. Now take that flour and put water and bacteria fungus. Not bacteria into it and let it sit. Now put it in a cooking vessel turned up high. Now slice it. Now cook it again. Artichokes are really stubborn and weird, and there's a lot of waste in the way to get to the nice bit in the middle, underneath all the hair. Also, bamboo needs boiling for a couple of hours or else you might ingest cyanide. Alking about food that's being made with milk. But why not milk itself? Did someone see a calf drinking from his mother her udders and thought maybe I should start sucking that cow's NPPLE as well? Foods that are poisonous unless prepared in a specific manner. I mean, who was it who first realized that the kidney beans that were poisoning everyone raw were perfectly safe after being boiled for 20 minutes? The fuck was bread guy doing? What compelled him to collect tiny pieces of grain, dry them out, smash them into a powder, get them wet again, but not too wet, and then put the whole thing over fire? Laver bread, which is seaweed boiled for hours into a puree. Most of the things mentioned humans can watch other animals eat. It is anything which requires weird cooking to be edible that gets me. Whoever came up with the idea of sausage must have been kind of screwed up. You know what would be great? If we put the meat in the intestines of the animal it came from before we eat it. Bittermelon lives up to its name. Mill occasionally cooks with it, and it's one of the few things I genuinely have a hard time stomaching. My husband, despite growing up with it, feels the same. Pretty obvious that it's edible, but I wonder who was the first person to think drinking cow milk was cool. And I wonder if everyone else just went along with it without questioning it. Cheese, yogurt, alcohol, vinegar, pretty much anything that you would otherwise have thought is gone off. Who looks at months-old milk that stinks of feet and think, I may eat that? I've never had it or even seen one, but I'd imagine durian spelling. Apparently it smells rank. I smell sour milk and my stomach turns. Olives. Who thought if I soak these inedible things in brine they'll be tasty little nuggets? I mean, I think they're tasty anyway. I know it's a love-hate relationship for many. Fugu. Let's eat this fish dies. Okay, he died. Let me try eating this other part of the fish dies. Okay, how about I eat only this part of the fish? Not too bad. I think that way about hard drugs, like, who created meth? Who thought that was a good idea? Why couldn't people put such interest in chemistry into more well-needed areas? Cow's milk. Hey, where's Bob? I hate to tell you, but they ran him out of town yesterday. They found him sucking on a cow's teat in the barn. Effing weirdo. Maybe not quite food, but like tobacco and marijuana. The amount of trial and error of just smoking random things to see what happens must have been an interesting time. Terror is poisonous unless you either soak it overnight or cook it. Someone must have been really hungry to keep trying after getting sick the first time. Crab lobster. Did some guy just say, okay, that looks good, let's cook it, and this meat is edible? Each time I eat crab, how the F did you figure that out, lol? Rotten fish sauce appeared in 2 different places, Italy and East Asia. Twice someone thought that the juice from a rotten salted fish could be a seasoning. Corn. Yes, you can just eat it raw. But the fact you need to cook it down with lye to release the proteins and not get malnutrition from just eating it as is. Tea. How many things did we try before we discovered that it's nice when brewed in hot water with milk added? Why did we keep trying all these things? Cashews. This feels like poison ivy roasted or double roasted just fine. I don't know if I'd ring that bell again after feeling the itch. Chocolate is a funny one. It's such a long process, and the end product is way different from the bean it comes from. How did they work that all out? Olives, an inedible food you make edible by fermenting in an inedible liquid for months. And basically any food that uses alchemy to make edible. Honey. What made something think to stick their hand into something with bees swarming around it and get some liquid and decide to eat it? That expensive coffee made from beans collected from animal droppings. Who the hell looked at that and said, why not? Let's give it a go. Cheese is weird. Hey Og, that milk you were storing has gone weird and lumpy. Should I throw it out? Nah. It's still good. Pass it here. That blowfish stuff. The kind that they have to be super careful when preparing. How'd they figure out being good enough to prepare it? The loot. Ate it once by accident and it wasn't bad until I realized what it was. Still have nightmares and I hesitate to eat eggs now. The first person to eat an oyster, how hungry was that motherfucker? Hey guys, I found a loogie in this slimy rock, want some eggs? Hey. This floofy small dinosaur just dropped this thing rock-like thing from its ass. Let's see if Mikey likes it. Coffee and chocolate. There are so many steps involved in making them what they are that I can't imagine how they figured it out. Head cheese. Smells like the worst amalgamation of a waste treatment plant. Who thought, yeah, I'ma put that in my mouth. Lobster. Who looked at these hard-shelled sea bugs and thought, I want to eat that. They must have been absolutely starving. Olives. After picking from the tree, they need to be cured for an extended period of time before they lose their bitterness.